your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted, to address whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. We are here in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And so I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, we are Facebook Live, we are YouTube Live, we are RadioFreeNetwork.com Live, and you can go to RadioFreeNetwork.com, click on the radio link, and the drop box will appear. Click on the New Life link, and every broadcast will be available to you. And we are having a little technical difficulty, so as you can see, I'm trying to get that resolved. And so we thank you for tuning in and for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, is brought to you daily by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable, artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery. And you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just water. It's Fiji Water at FijiWater.com. I'm going to say to all of our listeners and viewers who continue giving on the gift segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at New Life Ministries International or NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, we thank you for your support and for your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, where you can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship, you can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families, you can discuss dating and relationships, whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind, God is concerned about that which concerns you. So we are here for you to hear from God in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you are struggling with the fact that it is taking you much too much time for you to achieve the success that you desire. So let me begin by addressing this and saying that, first of all, you have to be patient and trust God that you are right where you're supposed to be. That's the first thing. And then you have to recognize that in your patience, there's going to be a learning process as you go. And you have to ask yourself, what are you ready for? You know, because when God says that he won't put any more on us than we can bear, we have to recognize that what he's really saying to us is that he's not going to give us any more responsibility than we are capable of handling. You know, God gives to every man, woman, and child according to their measure of faith. But we also have to recognize that until we have developed to the level that we are prepared to handle more, God is never going to give you more responsibility than you are capable of handling. And that's the thing we have to remember, is that we are all given specific gifts and talents. But then we have to develop those gifts and talents. So I'm going to take you back for a moment, because on Sunday I addressed this, and you can go back and listen to the Sunday sermon at New Life Christian Center Pastor Pope on YouTube. But I'm going to say this, and I use this as an example on Sunday, and I want to use this again because this is fitting for the communication that came in. There are people in their professions, and I use the NBA as an example, and I'll use it again because that's a simple, much more simple number with a simple number of games and then the playoffs and so forth. But you have approximately 15 slots on each NBA team. There's 30 teams, so you're talking about approximately 450 players in the NBA that show up for a game, and you have the first 5 who are your starting unit, and then you have players 6 through 9 who you may rotate in and out depending on how good your bench is. And then you have those players who sit at the very end of the bench, who only come into the game at the very end of the game when you're up by 20 and you don't want your starting unit to be injured in an unintended incident on the court that will result in an injury in the last 40 seconds of the game. I'll just use that as an example. So you sub them out. And you don't really want to put in players 6 through 9 because that's your rotation. So you put in the people who sit at the very end of the bench who are good enough to make it to the NBA. They are literally good enough to play in the NBA. They're the guy at the end of the bench who is literally a player capable of shooting the lights out in the gym. In other words, out of all of the basketball players in college in America, these 450 players are the players good enough to be selected to play in the NBA. So that guy at the end of the bench is capable of playing in the NBA. He's competent to play in the NBA. But he doesn't really work on his mental aspect of the game. He doesn't really work on his game. He doesn't really work on his body. He's good enough to play in the NBA. He's tall enough, he's fast enough, he's got excellent hand-eye coordination. He can play in the NBA. But if he doesn't work on maximizing his ability, he's always going to sit at the end of someone's bench until his career comes to an end, or until he goes and plays ball overseas. The reason is because he only put the work in to make it to the NBA. That's what he worked towards. He didn't work for any more than that. Now, you have to remember that the minimum contract in the NBA lets him make a good living until he either doesn't make the cut or he has to go play in Europe because no one picks him up. There's a lot of variables that go into that type of career. Well, in business, it's no different. People just get downsized. They don't get cut. They may not make the cut, but in business, it's just you're being downsized. And what you have to recognize is that, like all of these players who are part of this team, you're a member of a team also. You're on your company's team. Even if they don't have a softball team, you're on your company's team. And what you have to recognize is that you have to constantly work to keep moving forward. So you have those second 4 or 5 players who are really working. They know they're role players. They know they're part of the rotation. But they would really like to move out someone out of the starting 5 and get some more minutes. They would like to perhaps even become a starter, but that doesn't happen by accident. You have to put in the work to accomplish that. So you have to be patient while you're working and preparing. And there's a learning process that goes along with that. So one of the things they talk about in the NBA is basketball IQ. You know, what's your basketball IQ? Not your level of intelligent quotient, but what's your basketball level of intelligent quotient? So it's, do you understand the dynamics of all of the variables? Or do you understand the dynamics of some of the variables? Or do you just understand that there are variables? So everything is about putting the work in to become a better version of ourselves. You're only competing with you. So if you know that you're only competing with you, then the goal is to be patient, to put in the work necessary during the process so that you have the opportunity to move to the next level. And that's where you begin to experience the success you desire. And because you begin to experience the success that you desire, here's what happens. We become inspired to go to even a greater level. So the goal for that is to just keep moving forward. You know, that's where I've been in the Sunday Sermon series for this whole month, is to keep reaching forward for our full potential. So this really fit right in with your communication, because you're saying it's taking much too long for you to achieve the success you desire, but it's really not taking you longer than you desire. And I always refer back to what Jesus did, because he gave us a real good example for this. We saw him in the temple at the age of 12, asking questions, studying the words of the prophets. That was Jesus at 12 years of age. We don't see him doing any other miracle. We don't see him doing anything else from age 12 until age 30. He never performed a miracle until age 30. He spent 18 years studying the words of the prophets, preparing himself for the purpose that God sent him to perform. 18 years. So you got to ask yourself, have I really put in the time to learn during the process? Or do I need to, is it going to take me longer? You know, none of us are Jesus, but these examples that he gave us, 18 years he spent from age 12 to age 30. And then his ministry lasted for 3 years. For only 3 years. But in 3 years, the great work that he did has lived on forever. Because he maximized his potential. The potential that God had purposed in him, he maximized it to the saving of all of us. That we would have the opportunity to fulfill the purpose that God had placed in each and every one of us. And that's the good news. That's the blessing of being patient and learning through the process so that you're prepared for the next level that God has appointed for your life. This segment of the broadcast has been brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest fastest, and most reliable 5G network. If you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, nor have you been for the previous 90 days, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will place you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill. And if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you are really focused now on being promoted in the coming year, and you want to know what can you do to ensure that that happens. So, I see a theme, we're in the last quarter of the year, and I see a theme of a lot of people, focusing on what's happening in their careers right now. And I'm going to go back to what I started with the other communication. I try not to let it spill over into the subsequent communication. However, it's really all about preparing yourself. You've got to improve your effectiveness and your efficiency. So, in order to do that, I'm going to walk you through something that is significantly important, and that is that you've got to really outline each day and each hour, or as I'm going to give you a scenario, every 2 hours of your day. Now, will there be some crossover, some spillover? Of course there will. Will there be variables in every day? Of course there will be. But as a whole, you want to outline your day in this way so that you can be more effective and that you can be more efficient. And this is how you do this. So I've told a lot of our listeners and viewers this in the past, but I'm going to really walk you through this today so that you can really maximize your success and so that you can be promoted in the coming year. Outline your day by categories: administration, development, management, operations, and marketing. No matter what your career is, you can fit what you do on a daily basis under one of those categories. So you've got to focus on 2 hours on administration, 2 hours on development, 2 hours on management, 2 hours on operations, executive management, operations, and then 2 hours on marketing. That gives you a 10-hour workday, at least a 10-hour workday. Now, some of us work more than a 10-hour workday, but that's okay, because that just means that you can add some time onto each of those categories to clean up some things, for lack of a better term. But administration, you've got to focus on what you do on a daily basis from an administrative perspective. And you've got to allocate 2 hours to that purpose. If you finish what you need to do today from an administrative perspective and you complete it in 90 minutes, then you may have an extra 30 minutes to spend on development or on executive management or whatever the case may be. But 2 hours on administration, 2 hours on development, whether it's internal or external. Development could be professional development, doing some reading that will help you to be more effective and more efficient in your career and move your success forward. Executive management means that if you have people to manage or you have a client base to manage, how are you going to, what attention are you going to direct on them for 2 hours of the day? For 2 solid hours. Operations, the operational aspects. What contracting needs to be done? What needs to be done internally from a physical plant issue? Every aspect of operations. You've got to focus 2 hours on that. And then 2 hours on marketing. Whether it is marketing your company or whether it's marketing yourself. You've got to spend 2 hours every day on marketing. Those 5 categories, everything that you could possibly think of doing in the course of your day will fit under those 5 categories. And you can fit them within the 2 hour frame every single day. That is 10 hours of concentrated work during the week, even if you don't put any time in on the weekend. But if we're going to be successful in our careers, we're going to have to spend some time working on the weekends. I know people don't really want to work on the weekends. When you work along, you've got a big job and a big schedule, a big career. You don't really want to spend time on the weekends. But the reality is we're all going to have to spend some time on the weekend working on our career. That's a lot of that time is also spent on professional development. But you've got to you've got to really check in on what's going on from a corporate perspective at some point during the weekend. You really do, if you're going to be effective and efficient. And then come Sunday evening, you're going to have to spend some time preparing for Monday morning. You really have to do that. Because you're going to find that it's going to help you with your effectiveness and your efficiency. That's really what we need to do to maximize our success. And we need to do it on a consistent basis. So we have to be consistent, we have to be disciplined, and we have to be willing to work for a long period of time to maximize our success. Because success is ever evolving. It's ever evolving. The success of what you want to accomplish has to continue to evolve so that you can experience the fullness of God in your life. So I'm going to say, prepare yourself, improve your effectiveness and your efficiency, and you can do that by using the categories that I've given you today. Go through your day, what you do every single day, and put them under a category. Put everything you do on a daily basis under a category so that you can work from that format, and you will find that you will be more effective and more efficient, and you'll have the opportunity to maximize your success and experience the fullness of God. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, you stop in at their retail store. You will find everything that a man could possibly need. They have shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. If you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And the White Company, located in London, the UK. They also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. So if you're in New York, stop in at the retail store. They have everything you could possibly need: home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. And if you're not in New York, you can order from the White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers. And your question was, what is my theory on why one person in the family can be successful and another person from the same family with the same upbringing continues to struggle? Let me respond by saying this. You know, I was prayerful about this. And what's really interesting is I was having this conversation with someone very dear to me today. And we were having a similar conversation about a lot of things, but we were having a similar conversation about people recognizing that they have the opportunity to be successful. The reality is that God is not the respecter of persons. So every one of us, and here's, pardon me, I'm struggling with my allergies today, and I did take my allergy medication, but you just have to bear with me. I thank you for bearing with me. What's very interesting about this is that every one of us here in America has the opportunity to be successful. We can talk ourselves out of success. We can find excuses for not being successful. But the reality is that we live in a nation that started out one nation under God. In God we trust. If you look at your currency, if you look at every dollar bill, every currency in every form of a dollar bill or a $5 bill, $10 bill, $20 bill, $50 bill, $100 bill, every bill has on the back, in God we trust, because this nation was founded on the principles of God. It was founded upon the word of God. Man has gotten far away from God. The reality is that God is not the respecter of persons. So every one of us has the opportunity to be successful. The choices we make will impede our progress and eliminate our success. But here's the good news. If you don't stop trying, making an effort to build on the foundation that is laid in Christ, you will once again have the opportunity. What the enemy intends for evil, God will turn for the good. You have the opportunity to be successful. So we all have that opportunity. The problem is, and you ask why one person in the household, in a family can be successful and another one is still struggling, is because the one person who's decided to be successful believes that God has given them a purpose and they work to accomplish the purpose. And when you work to accomplish the purpose and you're committed to being successful, success will happen. God will move in your life in a way that you can experience the fullness of God. The reason another person from the same background, the same family, the same household, growing up, continues to struggle is because along the way they've decided that being victimized by their thought process gives them an excuse for not being successful. Now, I know I'm going to get some emails about this, but I'm just going to keep it real. Because every one of us that grew up in a challenging environment, for example, every one of us that grew up in a challenging environment either decides that we're going to accept the environment that we live in and become a victim of that environment, or we're going to determine that we're going to succeed at another level and we become a product of that environment, which means we learn that that's not something we want to continue to live within. So we want to improve the quality of our lives. What can I do? What can I do to improve myself, to become a better version of myself that will allow me to take advantage of the opportunities to be successful? There are options available to all of us. That doesn't make us any better than anyone else. What that tells me is that every one of us gets to make the decision, just like we get to make the decision, do we want to accept Christ as our Savior? We get to accept the opportunities to be successful, or we can find an excuse for not being successful. And generally, we lay it on the door of someone else. We will say, if it had not been for this, I too could have been successful. But God gives us all the opportunity. We're not all born with the same start. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But we're all born with opportunities. And we just have to maximize those opportunities. So at the end of the day, God is not the respecter of persons, nor are we. What we want for everyone is to make the decision to accept Christ as their Lord and Savior and let him lord over their lives to their success. And let the opportunities that God places